Here's the brief news from the world over this week. The first and only debate between the vice presidential candidates is in the books. Democrat Virginia Senator Tim Kaine repeatedly challenged Republican Governor Mike Pence during Tuesday's debate. He attempted to tie the Indiana governor to some of Donald Trump's more controversial statements. Pence didn't take the bait. Throughout, he maintained a folksy, soft-spoken, and even presidential demeanor. At points, Pence deflected the Trump attacks and turned them on Kaine's running mate, Hillary Clinton, repeatedly questioning her trustworthiness, raising questions about her use of a private email server, and resurrecting concerns about the Clinton Foundation. Here's a bit of their exchange.
People are respected and respect laws. You can't have somebody at the top who demeans every group that he talks about. And I cannot believe that Governor Pence will defend the insult-driven campaign that Donald Trump has run.
I have to tell you, I was listening to the avalanche of insults coming out of Senator Kaine a minute ago.
These were Donald.
He says,
hold on a second,
It's my
Governor.
time, Senator.
It is, in fact, the governor's time.
I apologize. This is your 2 minutes.
Thanks, I forgive you. If Donald Trump had said all the things that you said he said, in the way you said he said them, he still wouldn't have a fraction of the insults that Hillary Clinton leveled when she said that half of our supporters were a basket of deplorables. She said they were irredeemable. They were not America. I mean, it's extraordinary. And then she laid
Perhaps the most dramatic moment of the debate concerned faith issues, abortion, and the death penalty, which we will share with you later in the program. And Donald Trump wrote a letter to Catholic leaders on Thursday. Identifying himself as pro-life, he vowed to defend religious liberty and school choice. "I have a message for Catholics," he said. "I will be there for you. I will stand with you. I will fight for you. I will defend your religious liberties and the right to fully and freely practice your religion as individuals, business owners, and academic institutions." In his letter, Trump pointed to the Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton's pro-abortion record and her support for the HHS mandate. Trump's letter was addressed to the 18th Annual Catholic Leadership Conference being held in Denver this week. And if you blinked, you might have missed it. The crowning achievement of what has been a 25-year battle to curb the effects of man-made warming of the globe was ratified this week. The landmark Paris Agreement on climate change will enter into force on November 4th after a coalition of the world's largest carbon emitters and island nations pushed it past a key threshold on Wednesday. The non-binding agreement requires governments to present plans to reduce emissions with the goal of limiting the global temperature. It can rise by no more than 2 degrees Celsius or 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit. President Barack Obama called the Paris Agreement historic, but concedes it alone won't solve what he called the climate crisis.
Even if we meet every target embodied in the agreement, we'll only get to part of where we need to go. But make no mistake, this agreement will help delay or avoid some of the worst consequences of climate change.
And the United Nations has picked its new leader, and for the first time, he's a socialist. The UN Security Council unanimously chose former Prime Minister of Portugal, Antonio Guterres, as the next Secretary General. Guterres is well regarded within the vast UN bureaucracy, having served as the UN's High Commissioner for Refugees for more than a decade. Guterres was a prominent Socialist Party leader since the Portuguese Revolution in 1974 until he joined the UN in 2005. By tradition, the Secretary General has rotated among regions. East European nations, including Russia, did argue that they've never had a Secretary General and it was their turn. Others had campaigned to elect the first female UN chief. Guterres takes office in January. And slow economic growth continues here in the U.S. On Tuesday, the International Monetary Fund lowered the country's economic forecast for 2016, projecting only 1.6% growth this year. That is down a full point from 2.6% in 2015. The downgrade is mostly due to a sluggish second quarter in the U.S., according to the latest World Economic Outlook. Growth in personal consumption, which has been driving the American economy, is strong. However, investment spending in business has dropped for 3 consecutive quarters. U.S. economic growth is barely half that of the globe. The IMF projects the world economy to grow at 3.1% in 2016, down from 3.2% last year. More on the state of the U.S. and world economy later in the program. And on Tuesday, Pope Francis fulfilled a promise and visited central Italian towns devastated by the earthquake in August. He again offered his prayers and solidarity to the people of the region. The recovery has been painfully slow. Streets are still strewn with rubble. In Amatrice, the Pope toured a makeshift school set up in containers, where he was greeted by more than 100 young students. The Holy Father also met with firefighters and police and broke bread with the elderly and infirm, many of whom have been displaced by the quake. The August 24th quake killed nearly 300 people and left further 4,000 of them homeless. And the Vatican's chief liturgist, Cardinal Robert Sarah, says silence is needed to restore a sense of the sacred at Mass. Speaking about his new book, The Strength of Silence Against the Dictatorship of Noise, Sarah told a French reporter that banal noise has replaced prayerful silence in the liturgy under the pretext of making access to God easy. Cardinal Sarah, the prefect for the Congregation for Divine Worship, also renewed his invitation to priests to celebrate Mass facing east, ad orientem. He said that the posture inspires sacred silence in the clergy and the faithful. In July, Sarah made headlines when he first suggested that priests return to the ad orientem posture, sparking a debate at the Vatican and a private meeting with Pope Francis on the matter. According to the Cardinal, he told the Pope that his intention was to be pastoral and to help people, not to spark conflict or set one practice against another. Cardinal Sarah is also calling for an end to the, quote, hateful divisions over liturgy that can occur when a contemplative spirit is missing from the Mass. And the Holy See Press Office has just announced that the 2018 Synod of Bishops will focus on youth, faith, and vocational discernment. According to a Vatican statement, the topic for the 2018 Synod was chosen to express the Church's pastoral concern for the young. Exactly which issues or teachings will be considered by the bishops have yet to be announced. We'll continue to follow this story. And an important American diocese has new leadership. This week, Pope Francis chose Raleigh Bishop Michael Burbidge to lead the Diocese of Arlington, Virginia, right next door to Washington, D.C. Burbidge is a native of Pennsylvania. He served as a parish priest, high school and seminary teacher, as well as a former secretary to the late Cardinal Anthony Bevilacqua. Burbidge assumes responsibility of the Arlington Diocese from Bishop Paul Laverdi, who is retiring after 17 years. We wish Bishop Laverdi a happy retirement and Bishop Burbidge all the best in his new role. And in the waning days of the Obama presidency, First Lady Michelle Obama has ensured that her White House legacy is cemented for years to come, quite literally. On Wednesday, the First Lady dedicated an enlarged and more permanent White House garden. It is the capstone to her Let's Move child obesity program. Mrs. Obama has added steel, stone, and concrete to her garden, all of which would make it more difficult or more expensive for Obama's successor to rip out. Future presidents are under no obligation to keep the garden. White House amenities have come and gone over the years. President Clinton removed the first Bush's horseshoe pit. Clinton added a jogging track and hot tub, which the next Bush removed. You get the idea. The First Lady has secured a $2.5 million donation to help defray the costs of garden upkeep, but the National Park Service will maintain it. So the taxpayer is the real gardener. Finally, I have some sad news to report. You may recall that in late May, I asked you to remember a member of the EWTN family in your prayers. At that time, Joy Martin, the wife of one of our producers, Brian Martin, had been diagnosed with inoperable brain cancer. I am saddened to report that Joy passed away early Tuesday morning. Please pray for the repose of Joy's soul, as well as for her husband and their 7 dear children at this very difficult time. May Joy Martin rest in peace.